Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to The Editor and the Alien. I am your co-host, Kat Rocha, the Night Editor, and with me, as always, is...
J Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit. And tonight, we are covering one of my favorite films, Escape from New York, written and directed by John Carpenter.
Mhm.
The great John Carpenter.
Yes, the awesome John Carpenter.
The man, the myth, the legend, John Carpenter.
Exactly. So, is there any particular reason why we're covering this movie tonight?
Well, we were planning on doing it for quite a while, but we thought we'd watch this film and think, well, how much does the real New York today compare to this film? And this is a great film, I will say that. But the first big takeaway I have is that under the Duke A number 1, the New York of Escape from New York is far more well-ordered and structured and organized, and there seems to be more of a semblance of order overall in this setting, opposed to what we're seeing with Cuomo.
Very true.
I mean, I think really, if somebody could just roll through there with what was it? It was a Cadillac, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With chandeliers on the hood and a bunch of thugs in the back at any time, and that would be enough to bring peace.
Well, that is the thing, is that the New York of Escape from New York isn't lawless. It has its own laws, but it's definitely not lawless. Everybody knows the Duke, and everybody knows you don't fuck with the Duke.
And there are territories, and there are things you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to New York right now, where you just don't want to live there.
Yeah.
But aside from making fun of current reality, and I apologize to any of you poor souls who may be trapped in that state.
Yeah.
No, this is actually a longtime favorite of mine, Escape from New York. It was definitely a standout film in my youth, and it was something I saw quite a bit as they played it a lot on KTLA, which was a Los Angeles station. I think it's still there. And I remember being 6 years old and it playing, and it was just so thoroughly different from everything I had seen. There was nothing like it. And keep in mind, there was no Road Warrior or Blade Runner or Robocop or Demolition. Oh, well, definitely not Demolition Man, but what was it, Running Man, or any of those films.
Mm-hmm.
This predates all of them. And it was definitely one of the first cyberpunk films, and had a massive influence on the genre. But on top of that, keep in mind, back in the early 80s, when you thought of science fiction, the cutting edge was Star Wars. But science fiction was Star Wars. It was the old Battlestar Galactica show. It was Logan's Run or 2001.
Mm-hmm.
That was science fiction. Nothing looked like this film. I mean, and in a sense, nothing still quite does look like it.
No.
And, another thing that really stood out is it's another one of those films, what Carpenter's a master of, is taking a very small budget and making it look expensive. And boy, does he do an incredible job of it.
Well, for one thing, the opening, first 2 minutes is giving you a pan of the entire wall surrounding the New York area. And you're seeing all of the guys patrolling the walls. You're seeing the armaments. You're seeing the helicopter pad. You're seeing everything. And the great thing about that shot is it looks like it's one continuous shot. Like you're just panning across, the entire expanse, or not even the entire expanse, just a portion of what they've got to keep all these prisoners in. And the truth is it wasn't. It was actually incredibly clever editing techniques.
And just to set the image here, what most of you may not know, for you youngsters out there, is that in the early 80s, New York was still a shithole.
Mm-hmm.
It had long been the fallen gem in our national
Crown.
Yeah, I mean, it had been our crown jewel metropolis, and then it became a shithole that was just ridden with crime.
Notorious for it, in fact.
And the idea of like saying, just screw it, we'll wall it off and keep all the people in there because they might as well be prisoners, wasn't all that ludicrous.
Mm-mm.
And it doesn't seem all that ludicrous now, really.
Unfortunately.
I hate to say it. Unless they get New York under control, I'm going to have to flat out say that it's worse than what it was in the 70s.
Oh, I agree.
So, this is before Giuliani had come in and cleaned it up. But you get this pan that Kat was mentioning, and you see Manhattan Island, and it is just pitch black. You've got all these buildings, and there's, the signature skyline with all the lights is just black. And then it just pans across to that wall, as she puts it. And it mentions, and it's a shame a lot of people don't quite grasp this line, but at the beginning, it mentions that the United States police force is camped out like an army around the island. Now, it's a shame that a lot of people don't quite grasp what that means. We don't have a national police force, and for a very good reason. That's one of the first steps towards fascism. Mm-hmm. It's a signature of an oppressive nation, is a nationalized police force. So that was a big deal, too, as kind of a tip-off. But you see New York, and then they pan over to the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, usually the gateway that everyone went to when they were immigrating, mm-hmm. right? And now it's the deportation, the departure area for new prisoners are processed through Ellis Island. I mean, the irony right there is just brilliant. You mm-hmm. know everything about this world in that scene.
Before you were being welcomed into a new life and a new country, now you're being kicked out.
But anyway, so just quick plot for those who don't know. New York, or Manhattan Island's been turned into a prison. The United States is in the middle of World War III. It's a non-nuclear World War III as far as we know. Mm-hmm. The country's in bad shape. It's under fascist leadership. Radical communists calling themselves the National Liberation Front crashed crash Air Force One onto Manhattan Prison.
Yes.
And when they do, they're actually yelling over the mic to control, this would be a blow against the racist capitalist police state.
Yes.
Nothing changes.
No.
They only have one line, don't they?
Mm-hmm. No, they totally do.
So, for various reasons, there's a peace summit that's supposed to happen. The president has to be there, but he's now stranded in New York, captured. And this lone badass, Snake Plissken, a war hero who became a criminal, who's just been arrested, is sent in to retrieve the president. And to make sure he does his job and doesn't just run off, they've implanted micro bombs within his neck that'll go off in less than 24 hours. Well, basically, if he can't get the president to the summit in time, boom, no more Snake. Mm-hmm. That's it. Very straightforward, very simple.
Yeah. No long convoluted plot. No, just get in there. And that's the other thing, is I really like that his objective, yes, is to get the president out, but his number one objective is to get this tape that the president is carrying out. And the head of the police task force, Lee Van Cleef, tells him, no, we need to get that tape out. Which usually with these rescue missions, it's you got to get the person out, where the person actually is secondary.
And they don't get into a lot of depth of why the tape's important, other than it's about nuclear fusion.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really meander on unimportant elements.
No.
There's a very, very driven forward motion to the plot that you were constantly being pushed through.
Well, it's also it's a plot that is written on the notion of you only know what our main protagonist knows.
Yeah.
If our main protagonist doesn't know it, you don't get to know it, and I like that.
And at the beginning, there's another theme that becomes established, but by the end is very clear, and that is the I think it's the commandant actually of the prison.
Mm-hmm. Is that his?
I think he is the commandant.
Okay.
Hoke, played by the legendary Lee Van Cleef.
Yes.
The cast in this is amazing. Really. I mean, both Ernest Borgnine, Lee Van Cleef, Harry Dean Stanton, Adrienne Barbeau, Kurt Russell, damn, and Isaac Hayes.
Yes.
The chef. But anyway, just there is a Western vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that was one of the things Carpenter was very much going for, was kind of a Western vibe in this futuristic setting.
Yeah, you totally get that. Right down to the fact that, yes, Snake does have a MAC-10, but for the majority of the film, most people have revolvers.
Mm-hmm. And crossbows, but yeah.
And crossbows, yeah.
But and he plays it like Eastwood, very much so. He plays it like the man with no name.
Mm-hmm.
But when when Snake sits down across from the commandant, played by Lee Van Cleef, and he's given the offer, go in, get the president, come back, we give you a full pardon for all the crimes you've ever committed in the U.S. And it sets up a theme, and you realize these two men are not all that different.
Mm-mm.
And
well, right down to the fact that it goes over that Lee Van Cleef has the same background as Snake.
Yeah.
You know, they're both special forces. They both saw action in the war. In fact, their special forces groups knew of each other. But one went into law enforcement and the other became a criminal.
Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be much difference in this setting.
No.
But through the entire film, it's a broken world full of sinners. The outside world doesn't seem a hell of a lot better than the inside world. But in this world where everyone is corrupt, it's interesting that the commandant and Snake are two honorable men.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really what holds it together. Is that in this world where everyone's a sinner, everyone is corrupt, it's that Snake is an honorable man, despite all that. He lives by his own code, but he sticks to it. And the commandant, Hoke, is essentially the same kind of man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a few other things I wanted to point out before we get into the plot. And again, this isn't one of those films where we go into deep symbolism, because there isn't much.
No.
This is very much an adventure. But this film had a massive influence on William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer. One of the aliases that Carpenter would use when he did more than one job on a film, is he would use the name Richard Armitage. In Neuromancer, there's a character named Armitage. Armitage is based on Lee Van Cleef's character in this film, down to the fact that he was special forces, down to the fact that he has that gold earring in his left ear. They were both in similar units. The mission he did is very similar to the one he recalls Snake doing in Russia. That the one that Armitage did in Neuromancer.
Was it Screaming Fist?
Screaming Fist, yes. So yeah, and the whole plot about the bombs in Snake's neck, there was a similar plot in Neuromancer where our protagonist, Henry Case, has been injected with a neurotoxin that is the toxin will go off and destroy his nervous system after a certain amount of time if he's not given the treatment to release the toxin sacs to keep him loyal. And there are other elements, but those are the key ones right off the top that you can point out. Also, if you read Gibson's Burning Chrome, there, especially in the story Johnny Mnemonic, you see a lot of overlap between that film and that story as well.
I don't recall any dolphins on cocaine in Escape from New York.
No, there was Nighttown in Johnny Mnemonic. And the way Nighttown is described is not a whole lot different than Manhattan Prison.
Oh, really?
And the character named Ramiro seems to have been what the Low-Techs were patterned after, them and the Crazies.
Oh, really? Okay, I see the Crazies. I totally see the Crazies, but Ramiro, yeah, okay. I totally can see that.
Yeah, I mean, you start going through it and you're like, Gibson really liked this film.
No, I can totally see that.
So that's pretty much everything I have to say as far as the backstory and the big, I don't know, themes and interesting elements of this film. I guess the only other thing to remember, a lot of people miss that this film's a satire.
Really? Or are they seeing it as a like a cautionary tale of where we're headed?
A lot of people didn't realize the humor in there, and a lot of the weird elements were there specifically to satirize what was going on at the time.
I mean, I knew a lot of people, and we'll talk about this when we get there, but a lot of people didn't understand the ending. I had a lot of people tell me that this film was great until you got to the ending.
Well, because he doesn't do the heroic thing.
Well, they didn't understand what happened.
Right.
And we'll get into it.
But okay, so Snake flies in via glider into New York to find the president. In this, it's almost a tour of all the popular spots in Manhattan. We see Broadway, we see the World Trade Center, we see
the Fox Theater.
Yeah, the Fox Theater.
The New York Public Library. Yeah,
I mean, it's like what you would get on a walking tour or one of those bus tours of New York.
The train station.
He hits all those locations and shows a parody version of them where it's just essentially New York's completely fallen to crime, or looks like it does now.
I wish I couldn't laugh at that.
It's kind of creepy how many of the scenes actually look like parts of New York right now.
No, what I was sad about was seeing some of the city shots and realizing, this actually looks cleaner.
Oh, they see the fight in Madison Square Gardens. So, I mean, what is it? One of the first things he wanders in on is a drag show.
Yes.
Off Broadway.
A drag show off Broadway. Yes, it's a review. In fact, I think Cabby does call it a review.
Yeah. And the song is just hilarious.
Yes, this is hell. This is fate. With something, and it's great. Damn, I don't remember the.
Stab a priest with a fork. It's always fun in New York.
No more Yankees.
I've got that soundtrack. I love the soundtrack to this film. I know that other people prefer the Escape from LA soundtrack, and I'll admit there are some really great songs on there. But as far as a coherent soundtrack and just its tone, the bleakness to it, the minimalism really fits. And yeah, there's a real vibe of desperation through the whole thing. And in dark times like these, and let me tell you, 1981 we were coming out of a very dark time. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the 70s were not a pleasant time.
No.
I mean, we all remember disco, and we've got
Well-
this real goofy image of the 70s. No, the 70s were dark.
Well, go watch our review of Red Dawn.
Well, that was the 80s, but
But still, coming out of a dark time.
at least there was hope when Reagan got elected.
True.
But so that desperation that really overarches the theme of the movie, the music, the fact that just the weight of the world is on Snake's shoulders, whether he
Mhm.
likes it or not. He can never really stop moving. He's got to keep going no matter what.
Yeah.
And I like that Carpenter follows the rule of a good protagonist hero in an action film. You put them through absolute hell.
Yeah.
And boy, Snake earns that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a scene in the off-Broadway show that you wanted to talk about.
Oh. Well, it's a scene that I do honestly think needs to be brought up, and that is he's looking for the president, and at this point, the president had been given this this tracker, this homing beacon that Snake was following, and that led him to the Fox Theater where this review is taking place. And he goes downstairs into the basement, and he's even warned by Cabby not to go downstairs because bad element lives down there. And he's looking from room to room, and you just see just depravity and just despicable people. He gets they attempt to jump him at one point, and of course he dispatches the thieves very quickly. But one scene that I think is a brilliant character developing scene, or it gives you a window into who Snake is without having to tell you, is one of the rooms he walks in on a gang rape.
Yeah, there are 3 punks.
Actually, I counted 5 guys, but 3 of them were disrobing the young lady.
Yeah, 3 punks are disrobing a girl who looks like she's not all there.
Yeah, she definitely looks drugged, and you kind of think that maybe that's a good thing that she's drugged up with what's probably going to happen to her. And he just pauses, stares at it, and then continues on.
And he has that look on his face like, well, maybe I don't have time for this.
Yeah, and that tells you who Snake is that deep down inside, he is a decent person, but he has an objective to do. And I think that that's very important.
Yeah, it says everything about his character right there.
Mm-hmm.
And,
well, he's a soldier, and he can't play hero. He has a job to do. Now, yes, that job is because he doesn't want his head to explode, but still.
But hey, who does want their head to explode?
Very few people do.
I mean, you go on Twitter, you spend a few hours there, and you're like, my head's going to explode. Who wants that?
No, not
Ain't
many people.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But no, I think it's very important to point that out. Not only just going over the film, but I know that we have a lot of writers out there, and this is something to take note of.
Yeah, if you're a writer, this is another one of those films that you really should study because it's got very good rapid-fire story beats. There are very few pauses. I mean, there's one moment of there are 2 moments of real desperation in the film. And the one is when he finds the tracker for the president, and it's attached to a homeless guy.
Yeah.
And Snake goes back to the plane crash, and he just sits in that chair.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts feeling his neck, and you can tell it's like, I'm fucked.
Yeah, it's now.
I'm gonna die here.
Like, okay, well, fuck, what do I do now?
And of course, fate won't let him go. I mean,
no.
Suddenly, New York once again tries to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a theme through all this. Is the biggest obstacle isn't the villain; it's New York. Throughout the entire film, New York itself seems hell bent on killing him.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's another point I like, and we'll get into it more when we talk more about the Duke, is that Snake really is just one more element in how fucked Manhattan is.
Yeah.
As far as the citizens go and them living in it. Yeah, Snake has the power of PC and he is the main character that we are following. But the world itself actually really doesn't care about Snake. They care about what the president symbolizes, and the fact that Snake is there to get him out draws the attention of the Duke and all of Manhattan.
Although I do like that Snake seems to have this bizarre celebrity status of a war hero that became a criminal, and everybody thinks that he's been killed. I thought you were dead, which apparently is a reference to a Western that Carpenter really liked, so he thought he'd just stick it in there because he liked it.
Yeah, it is a Western. At this very moment in time, my brain is not recalling which one.
I want to say Shane, but I probably am completely wrong there. You know Westerns better than I do.
You know, I thought it was Shane too, but I have a feeling it's not. But if somebody knows, please say so.
We got to do the Wild Bunch sometime.
Yeah, we do.
We need to do that. Well, we need to buy the Wild Bunch because it's not. We don't have it anymore.
No. Well, yeah, the Wild Bunch
got burnt up.
Yeah, we need to do all those films. I really want to do Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Well, I bought it.
I know.
I still have it. Nice restored Blu-ray version.
No, we need to do that film. I need to see Lee Van Cleef be a total
badass. That is another film where it's one of my favorite soundtracks. I love that soundtrack.
Oh, that soundtrack's amazing. Okay,
we're Passion for Gold.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get back to Escape from New York. Different film.
Okay, so yes, as we said, you know, Snake sitting there, you know, he's feeling thoroughly and completely fucked, and you know, damn it, if this town, if it's not going to shit on you when you think you're at your lowest,
yeah,
you know, that's when we're introduced to the crazies.
Yeah, just they come out of the sewers like Morlocks and just start preying on things.
You know, and they full on like eat a girl, you know, pull her down into the depths of the sewers.
They're out. No, he says they're out looking for food, and you think, oh, okay, they're trying to scavenge.
Yeah,
and then it's like, no, they're looking for people to eat.
Yes.
It's like, oh, shit.
Like, holy fuck. And, you know, he has to escape from them, you know, traverse even more of this fucked up terrain. You know, just if it's not one thing, it's another, you know, with this.
Eventually ends up at the library with Cappy, and we meet Brain and
Maggie.
Yeah.
And what do we discuss? Okay, Brain, it turns out, is exactly that. He is the brainy guy. He is allowed to have his own compound in the New York Public Library, and everybody knows that they can't fuck with him because Brain knows how to make gasoline.
Yeah.
In fact, he's got a hopper in his living room, which I think is one of the most hilarious things.
And one of the nice things... sorry. This is the first time we've seen it in Blu-ray. And for those of you who don't know, any film that has a lot of high contrast or a lot of dark tones, you need to watch it in Blu-ray. VHS and even DVD don't do well with dark colors. For whatever reason, when it came time to get into the compression for DVD, the two colors they skimped on were red and black.
Yeah, that's weird.
So bright, vibrant films with lots of pastel colors look beautiful. You don't need to replace them with a Blu-ray. They'll look just fine on DVD. Films like Blade Runner, Escape from New York, The Crow, any noir film that's been restored, you need to get it on Blu-ray because you're not going to see the whole film.
No.
And this was our first time seeing Escape from New York on Blu-ray, and the sheer amount of detail that is lost. You know, seeing that Maggie had a punch dagger. Realizing that Brain in the background not only had a oil pump hopper in the background, but that you look even off to the corner, and he has a bootlegger refinery.
a still.
He's got a still, but it looks like a bootlegging still, but then you realize it's to refine the oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, through the entire film, there are details like that just kind of muddy into the background otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really worth seeing in Blu-ray.
Very much so.
And yeah, that's another thing, is how much of the story is just told in little details.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's mentioned, Cabby mentions that most cars have steam engines, and that his cab and the Duke are the only ones who have gasoline still.
Mm-hmm. And then the rest are steam.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else we need to say about Brain and Maggie?
Well,
other than Kurt Russell, apparently, through all of his scenes with Adrienne Barbeau, really had to try hard to keep his composure, because he was actually somewhat younger than her. And apparently, he didn't say in so many words, as a teenage boy, she was one of the fold-out pictures on his wall that...
that helped him get through the night.
Yes. And so sitting there with her inches away with the cleavage was very distracting. And
that's hilarious. No, I was going to say, what is Brain and Snake's relationship?
We don't know exactly, except that they had pulled a heist together and that Brain screwed him over.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of wonder if that's why Snake got arrested. We know why he got arrested, but why he was wanted.
No, I got the impression.
He got arrested for trying to knock over the National Reserve, which they cut.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you've seen it, it's a neat scene, but the film's better without it.
It is better without it, because it too quickly humanizes Snake, and you need him to be hard and cold till the end. No, I got the impression that he's the reason why everybody thinks he's dead. Brain's betrayal while he was in the military is why everyone thinks Snake is dead.
Was it the military? I thought they were pulling a heist together.
No, they're in the military.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought they were talking about a heist.
Yeah, or was it a heist? Well, I got the impression that it was because of Brain's betrayal that everyone thought that Snake was dead.
But it was very clear they had a history together.
Well, and it makes sense if you think of it that way, because Brain entered only 3 years previous.
Yeah.
So he hadn't been there very long. And if everybody, in a place where no news comes in unless a new person comes in, why would they all think that Snake was dead?
Good point. Oh, Maggie even says, I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is just a little side story. In that exchange back and forth between Harry Dean Stanton, Brain, and Kurt Russell, I guess they didn't quite have the dialogue worked out. And so it was Russell. Russell said, okay, well, I need to name somebody that got screwed over in this by Brain. And he said, well, I tried to think of the toughest kid I knew growing up, and we all called him Fresno Bob. So that's where that name came from.
I was wondering about that.
It's not a very tough name.
No.
Sounds like someone who probably, I don't know. It just seems like somebody you'd meet at the tractor pull.
Fresno Bob? Either that, or it's, the guy that everyone knows at the bar.
Yeah. Stuff happens. We're introduced to the Duke.
Yes.
You want to talk about the Duke?
Well, the Duke is Isaac Hayes. I mean, shit.
And he's a number one motherfucker.
He is a number
this
one.
This Raz guy in the Chop, amateur.
Oh, totally.
Does he have chandeliers on his? No.
No.
Does he have a disco ball hanging from his rearview mirror?
No. And one thing I really like about the Duke is he gets out there. He is definitely, the alpha. He's the one you don't want to fuck with. But Carpenter subtly throughout the whole film, every time you see the Duke, seeds into your mind. You may not realize this is what's happening, but it's happening. That the Duke is not just a guy out there putting up a front. He's not just, a a well-dressed black man in a shiny car. No,
well, he comes across as kind of the ultimate pimp.
he is the ultimate pimp. But what I mean is how he treats his men, and the fact that he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He knows how to use a gun, and in the end, he's the one who's chasing down Snake and everybody as they're trying to escape. No, you get, without being told, why the Duke runs New York. That something went down at some point, and it was probably really bloody. And he proved that you didn't want to fuck with him personally. And that's why he's got all these people under him. And I like that. How many times have we seen movies, or again, the dork who's running the chop, where they're just a figurehead, where if they actually had to, get their hands dirty, they'd probably cry.
Yeah.
And that's so important. If you're going to have a villain, especially a villain where you have people who do their bidding, you need to show that they're willing to get their hands dirty.
Another little side thing I wanted to point out was that Cabby, played by Ernest Borgnine, isn't dangerous at all. He is not a threat in the least. He's nuts. I mean, he comes across as really crazy, but you hear him talk and he keeps repeating over and over again, I've been driving a cab in the city for 30 years. And it's very clear in the opening, the prison hasn't been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
Which gives the impression that maybe a lot of people in Manhattan were just walled in.
Yeah, that they were just locked in, and unfortunately they were casualties
of whatever happened.
Yeah.
Kind of like now. People who can't leave.
Yeah.
Although I do find it funny that you've got these rich Manhattanites running away to West Virginia because it's safe there. Fucking assholes.
They're going to get their asses kicked.
I hope they get their asses kicked. At one point, Snake takes an arrow to the leg, playing with the Western theme.
Yes.
Also, now he's got a limp through the rest of the film. He goes through fucking hell.
Yes.
It's a lot of...
He gets a limp. He loses his shirt.
There's a lot of action scenes that happen that play out, and just complications. This is a really well-written example of when you want a film with a lot of action, with a lot of forward motion, but it doesn't seem dull, and you never lose the plot. Plot keeps getting fed to you as you go.
Well, also, the situation just keeps getting more and more complicated, but it doesn't feel like you're checking boxes. It's like, oh, okay, now we got to make it harder. Now we got to make it harder.
This is not a fetch quest movie.
No.
Because a lot of these films start feeling like fetch quests, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
No, this feels like every time he thinks he's got it all together, it falls apart again.
He does actually get to the president. He starts to untie him. They're starting to escape. And he gets the arrow into the leg.
He gets captured. But I think the thing that really nails it, where you get to the third act, and what really just... How do you raise the intensity even further? He's got, 15 hours left, right? 18? I forget how many hours. He's already worried. He gets knocked out, and when he finally comes to, he's got 2.5 hours, and it's already twilight.
Yeah.
He's missed most of the day.
Yeah, he's missed most of the day. He doesn't know where the president is. He doesn't know where his gear is. That's the other thing. He wakes up, and all of his stuff is gone, including the counter that tells him how much time he has left, and a radar signature beacon that lets the people on the outside know where he is and what he's doing.
You get a wonderful pit fight at Madison Square Gardens with a pro wrestler who... I don't know who the hell that guy was, but Jesus.
God, he looked like Tor Johnson on steroids, honestly.
Yeah, those eyebrows.
Well, isn't he a real wrestler?
Yeah, he was a real wrestler.
He was a real wrestler, and I believe I know he wasn't pulling his punches with Kurt Russell. Was it okay for Kurt Russell to not pull his punches? I know that there was something about that. Or like
Yeah, he wasn't pulling his punches, so Russell decided he wasn't going to pull his.
yeah.
And apparently, when it came time for him to get clubbed on the back of the head,
Mhm.
and even though it was a rubber bat, the wrestler did not like the Russell did not go easy.
Oh, really? He didn't like it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, well, you've been smacking me around for real. Yeah, that's another bonus to this disc if you ever buy it, is the commentary between Carpenter and Russell. The commentary track is awesome because they love this movie. It's one of the, it was one of the films they had a lot of fun doing. And when they're watching this one, they're getting progressively more drunk.
Yes.
And the stories they start telling are freaking hilarious. And there's even one part where you find out where the nickname Snake comes from, is that Snake has a cobra tattoo coming out of his pants up to his belly button.
Wasn't that Kurt Russell's idea to
Yes.
put it there? Yeah.
And he says, I still get letters from ladies about that tattoo. And Carpenter says, really? Yeah, some of them are really good. Do you still have those letters? I'd like to see them. I'll show you later on.
I love that.
I don't know. Is there anything else really to mention? I've got some stuff about the ending. I mean, we can talk about action sequences, but this is a film you got to see.
No, I would say really it's the ending.
Yeah.
From that point on.
I mean, the Snake and the President are the only ones to make it out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the interesting things is you find out when the President snaps, he's just as savage as anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when
he snaps and he starts shooting the Duke.
Yeah. Because there's a scene where the Duke is torturing the president. I mean, he cuts off a finger. He's shooting a gun at him. He beat him up. Put him in a wig. So yeah, the president snaps and unloads a full magazine into the Duke, while poor Snake is left dangling on the wall halfway between Freedom and Manhattan.
Between Manhattan and his head blowing up.
And his head blowing up, exactly.
But let's get to the ending.
Okay. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it yet.
Snake makes it.
Yeah, Snake makes it. Yeah, his head no explodey. And you get this scene where he goes up to the president, and it's very obvious he needs to know what type of person he's just saved. And he says, Mr. President, a lot of good people, risked their lives and died to get you here. What was it? I think he asked him, like, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
And the president he's getting a shave. I think he's even getting a manicure. He's got all these people, grooming him so that he can go in front of this camera. And he has no time for Snake. And it's not a case of, this is very important. We've got the summit. The fate of, the free world rests in me getting in front of this camera. I'll talk to you later. No, it's not even that. He has no time for, basically the common man before he's going to give this speech.
It doesn't give a flying fuck.
Another person could have said, let me deliver the speech and then I'll give you as much time as you want. But yeah, he couldn't give a fuck and give some flippant answer of, it's like, what was it that he said?
Oh, he said something like, we all thank them, and
yeah, we all thank them, and
it was just, you really blew him off. It was like such a non-committal answer.
Yeah, and it's like, and we've just seen these people die to get him there, and as we said before, the whole point of this is they need this tape, and it's one of those old cassette tapes. For any youngins who have never seen one before. It was this old cassette tape that they were going to play for peace. And it was established that Cabby had a bunch of these cassette tapes that looked exactly the same in his cab. and Snake switches out the tape on purpose.
Yeah. So when the president addresses the leaders of China and the Soviet Union, instead this tape that was going to be a peace offering turns out to be the theme to American Bandstand.
Yes. And the end of the film is Snake walking away. He's got his freedom. His record is clean. He's got a new lease on life, and he's pulling the ribbon out of the tape and thoroughly and completely destroys it. And that's the end of the film. And it's a wonderful ending. Really, I think it's a great ending because, again, it shows what type of a person Snake is, that he's honorable, that this president, this person was going to go and give this message of peace, and that it was a fucking lie, and that he wasn't going to let him tell a lie. So I loved it for that. Ishii had to leave the room for a second. He will be back, but one more thing. At the end of the film, Lee Van Cleef offers Snake a job, further showing that they're not much different.
Yeah, and he just kind of walks off into the night.
Yep.
Smoking a cigarette.
Yes, a movie where you can still smoke cigarettes. If I got into films, I would totally have my characters smoke because it's bullshit that they can't anymore.
Oh, I love. Okay, so you want to go through the chat?
Sure.
Did you get into why people don't seem to understand the ending?
No, I didn't. I was just saying my take on it. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand Snake walking away, tearing apart the tape. I've had people tell me that they didn't get that the tape was switched.
It's amazing how many people don't really pay attention anymore if it's not spelled out.
Yeah. That they didn't understand what it was that Snake was doing when he's walking away. Now, maybe, now that we've seen it on Blu-ray and you can see how much detail is lost with like VHS or even television cuts.
Or even DVD.
Or DVD, pan and scan. They might not have been able to see that he was ripping apart the cassette.
Or maybe they don't know that when you pull the insides of a cassette out, it's broken.
That too. But I had people telling me that in high school, when I was in high school. They didn't understand. So, Eloise, did Hideo Kojima base Solid Snake off Escape from New York Snake? Yes, he did.
Absolutely.
He is a huge fan. Panda Power. Kojima just ripped off this movie, didn't he?
Yes, to quite a bit. But then Carpenter met him and said he's a cool guy, so I'm not going to sue him.
Oh.
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah. He met him. He said, he's kind of a cool guy. I like him. Let's not sue him.
Okay.
Although he did sue Luke Besson for...
Luke Besson.
Or Besson, who did The Professional.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he sued him for his Escape from New York ripoff.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see.
Chris P. The book explains how Snake got the eye patch and how he knows how to fly the Gulf Fire glider.
I need to get the book. I mean, years ago, I remember coming across the novelization in a bookstore, and I should have bought it. It was in a used bookstore.
Oh.
But if it's still available, yeah, I need to read it.
Totally. I bet we can find it. We can track it down. Owen, I gotta say, it was weird to see Angel Eyes play a lawman. Yeah. Very true. But he was still playing a cowboy.
Okay, let's see.
And he was ruthless as fuck. Chris P. The character Romero was named after the filmmaker George Romero.
And don't overlook the fact that the doctor's name was Cronenberg.
Yes.
Which is very fitting.
Owen, I thought the ending was a brilliant middle finger to the authority.
Which is the point of the film in a lot of ways. I mean, it's a very anti-authoritarian film. Both Carpenter and Kurt Russell have described Snake as a libertarian hero.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, I knew this, but read it anyway.
Okay, did you know that President Gerald Ford's son is the Secret Service agent on Air Force One that is banging on the cockpit door? I thought he looked familiar. I hadn't known that, but I did know that that person was somebody. Let's see. Oh, and what I liked about Escape from New York was that it was simple. Filmmakers today seem to forget that a simple story can work just as well, if not better. LK
is really on this one.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget, everyone who says, "I thought you were dead," winds up dead. That's very true. Of course, almost everybody in the film winds up dead, so... Endless Nocturne. I can't wait for an action movie where a group of patriots retake an autonomous zone from a warlord. I don't think Hollywood will make it, though.
So if I wrote this as a book or a comic, would you guys buy it?
Oh, and you can tell by the films they made how bleak the 70s really were. Just look at the first Dirty Harry movie.
That's a movie we're going to do.
Yes.
That's another film I really like.
Mm-hmm. I believe it was my dad's favorite.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Your dad was a cool guy.
Yeah.
I'm glad I met your dad.
I'm glad you did too.
And I mean really met your dad, not just the, hi, I'm your son-in-law. But yeah, Dirty Harry's another movie. I really like that film.
Mm-hmm.
I often thought it was underrated and often, much like Red Dawn, written off as a dumb action movie when it is not.
No, it's not.
Actually, I would classify Dirty Harry as a modern noir or a neo-noir.
I agree. And I also think that it's extremely fitting that it's set in San Francisco for multiple reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Underworld Dream. You guys reviewed this movie already? I recalled you guys talking about this movie before.
I talk about this film a lot. It left a really deep impression on me. Often when people ask me about my influences writing and the things that really affected me as a kid, Escape from New York is one of those films that for whatever reason really left an impression. So when I get that "what are your influences" question, this comes up usually, along with Max Headroom and a few other things.
And anytime we talk about cyberpunk.
Yeah.
John Ivan Taro. Speaking of Escape from New York, it seems like Antifa and BLM are trying to recreate that movie in terms of the crap sack elements. I like that term, crap sack.
Crap sack. That's a good description for them.
Yes. Let's see. What's next? Panda Power. I actually know a lot of soldiers who would stop a rape even while on a mission. I think then times he lives in was a good enough explanation why he didn't help. Every man for himself.
Well, the way Kurt Russell described it, he said that the way he played that scene was that he was trying to do it completely as a physical acting physically, because there's no words. Is that he wanted to communicate the notion of, I should stop this. I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, I don't have time for this. But I don't doubt that in the least that most soldiers would, in the middle of a battle, try and stop a rape. I mean, people who really are dedicated to this country and people who have that sense of service and sacrifice, strong moral compass.
Mm-hmm. Well, it takes a very strong person to be willing to, sacrifice themselves for a higher ideal.
Something the left doesn't really understand.
No.
Oh, of course. That had to happen. Where'd it go?
Donde? Oh, and just saying, Snake Plissken as a diver would be a total beast.
It's always got. We need to have like a graphic for whenever Guyver comes up.
We do need a Guyver alert graphic.
What does it have? Some people, some streamers like Razorfist and stuff will have like an animation they can run at the touch of a button.
Well, it's
I would like that.
It's not a touch of a button. I think it's a function of Twitch.
Oh, is that it's Twitch that he's using?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they've programmed it to do things. So
let's see.
The Wolf 10, 2 anime acid trip. I'm doing good, contemplating shutting down my Twitter.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, guys. I mean, I'll be upfront with you. I'm really on the edge of doing that, but at the same time, I don't want to lose contact with all of you. And I don't know, maybe we can all go to Parlay. I'm kind of not thrilled with the interface, to be honest with you, but I don't want to lose contact with you guys because you really are my friends and my family at this point. And how else am I going to hang out with you other than this? And how long is this going to last? And how will I let you know I'm on air?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably would have shit-canned it about a month ago.
No, I'll be honest. I'm really thinking of taking a break from Twitter. Every time I hop on, it just makes me more depressed.
I'm OCD. Is there any way that I can like set it so I can't go to Twitter?
Yeah, you block it.
Let's get that set up somehow. I mean, seriously, my obsessive compulsiveness, it's getting to that point where I'm glued to it. I can't let go. It's driving me nuts, to be honest.
Yeah, we can block Twitter.
Okay. I'd much prefer to shift that OCD back to writing.
Mm-hmm. Janelle, did you know the girl that got attacked by the crazies was Kurt Russell's wife at the time? Her name was Susan Hubley. Yep.
She was cute.
She was cute.
Especially as a punk.
Well, actually, I found it funny that, you had, she was Kurt Russell's wife, and Adrienne Barbeau had been married to John Carpenter.
And the quote, I knew someone who actually met John Carpenter, and he had a Adrienne Barbeau obsession, and he went to he said something to the effect, so you were married to Adrienne Barbeau. I mean, what was that like? And Carpenter didn't even look him in the eye. He just took a long drag off his cigarette and said, tits ain't worth it, kid. That was it.
That's brilliant. Chris P. in the book, Cabby's taxi cab is the same he drove before Manhattan became a prison. He had the car in storage.
I need to read this.
Yeah. Damien, have you watched George Romero's Knight Riders, a Rene Fair trope that featured Ren Fair, sorry, I'm not reading well. Act is motorcycle jousting and sidecar duels. That's pretty cool.
Let's see.
I'm used to seeing Ren Fair spelled differently. Cool.
I think you just hit D on accident or E on accident.
Okay, it's also interesting to see a wimp president. Most movies nowadays, we see this action hero or at least a stoic type president character. That's very true. John Ivantaro. I like how Snake Plissken actually struggles with his situation, and he actually has his own set of beliefs. A personality, mannerisms, mentality, and emotions. It's almost as if he's a person.
Yeah.
Janelle, there was supposed to be a third Escape movie. It was going to be called Escape from Earth.
And you know what it became? The script was then rewritten to The Ghosts of Mars.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the bare bones beginnings. And it wasn't going to be ghosts. Apparently it was some sort of weird gang on Mars.
I like Pam Grier. Pam Grier was good. I was sad when she died. Oh, so the weird Reaver-like characters were actually the crazies?
I'm guessing. But we can get into my feelings on the sequels and follow-up possibilities another time. I have my own opinions on those.
It'd be a great show, for the next time we're just rambling.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, there we go.
Let's see. Owen, Snake basically gave a gigantic middle finger at the end. Plus, I think he was testing the president during that scene.
Oh, absolutely.
David Jack, if they ever made a third sequel in the Escape from New York series, I can imagine Kat playing an original character such as Snake's daughter or even a police officer inspired by Snake. See, that's tough because I definitely do go for the solos when I'm playing, and I definitely played a ex-military, Spec Ops
when you were playing 2020.
When I was playing 2020, but the idea of like maybe playing a hard ass like Lee Van Cleef, the person who has higher ideals and is unfortunately serving assholes. And given a tough job. I mean, that's an interesting angle too. So basically I would still need to have a gun.
You always play bruisers in games.
I do play bruisers, but I also tended to wind up being like the person who has the plans and the baby wrangler.
Actually very funny that you always ended up getting stuck being the one organizing. You were
it's like, look, I'm not the why am I strategizing? I shouldn't be the strategist, but I was. LK, you are a Max Headroom fan too? I wish that was streaming or in physical form somewhere.
You can buy the DVD set, the full season. And you can watch the British pilot of it on YouTube for free. Shout Factory put it out. Buy the set. It is damn well worth it.
Very much so worth it.
And it has, I believe, episodes that were never aired.
It had episodes that were never aired, and it had commentary.
Yeah.
Did Underworld Dream, did Kurt or the director got into trouble a few years back for saying Snake is a libertarian?
Oh, yeah. Quite a bit, in fact. They've been getting shit about that since the 90s, and it's just gotten worse. I'm not sure how it is that Russell can keep working, but Hollywood utterly despises Carpenter. Kind of always have, though. But, yeah, they're not a fan of his politics. Okay, let's see.
LK, what did you think of Cameron's work on Escape from New York?
As always, the guy has a real skill for taking a very small amount of money and making it look great. I believe he did the matte painting stuff on that one and some of the not CGI.
Well, I knew
the CGI isn't real CGI in the film. It's genius. It mimics what real wireframe CGI is. They just got a bunch of boxes, constructed a city of New York City, painted it black, and then lined all the edges with glow tape. Genius.
Wolf 10 to the Mad Ginger. I also like vampires. Vampires was very entertaining. I will admit, the first time I saw it, I wasn't too into it, but I hadn't been exposed to John Carpenter films, but now I love that film. Wolf 10, you mean to tell me the only way the world to despise me is to call myself a libertarian?
Wolf, there's a whole bunch of black libertarians on YouTube, and let me tell you, if there's one thing that upsets the left more than black Republicans, it's black libertarians. they flip out. It is amazing the level of rage I've seen focused on Black libertarians. It's insane. There's a guy named Colin Noir that I've been watching. He's a lawyer, but he also does a lot of gun advocacy, as well as just good educational videos about cleaning and safety and gun reviews. You get him talking the hell he's been put through. I agree, Janelle.
Yes, Hollywood can totally eat a bag of dicks.
So I think that's about it. I mean, is there anything you want to add? I mean, we've been on an hour.
No, nothing I can think of that is of substance. Just talking about minor things, like how awesome the Romero character is.
Class of '99 would be a fun one to do. We have that actually.
Oh yeah, we should totally do that.
Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. I don't know what else to add. Sorry, I mean, usually we just talk and talk and talk, but we're kind of wiped out. Do you have any questions for us before we go? You think what do you want to do? Do you want to do Dirty Harry or Good and the Bad and the Ugly next week? Or
totally one of those two.
Yeah,
I'm definitely in the mood for you're a good lawman film.
I mean, I feel Harry's kind of timely right now. But let's see.
Although here's the other question though. Next weekend is 4th of July. So
I'm not doing ID4.
I'm not saying to do ID4. I know that that's offensive to your people.
Yeah. totally misinterprets my people.
Well, no, it's not misinterprets. It makes your people look like they're idiots that they can be hacked into by an apple.
No, I want to take it a step further. They compared us to Locust.
That is true. They did.
That's up there with Farrakhan comparing a different people to termites. That is just low.
That is very low. But come on, admit it. Having an exoskeleton with tentacles would be pretty damn cool.
What makes you think that I don't?
Because I've never seen it. Plus, didn't you steal this one?
I'm not talking about that. It's mine. I got it fair and square.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
It was in a game of chance that
A game of chance.
That I didn't.
Space craps.
I don't want to talk about where I got it from, okay?
This is your Millennium Falcon?
It's mine, okay? I didn't steal it.
No. Anyway.
People have said do the Breakfast Club. People have suggested, Seven Samurai.
Do we have Seven Samurai?
I think we do. We have Yojimbo.
We have Yojimbo.
We have Rashomon.
We have Kagemusha.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll make me cry. Not ready for Kagemusha yet.
I'm not answering this.
Does Ishii's human suit have hentai mode? No. There is only one, and it is reasonable sized. Well, more than, but not frightening. How about that?
Well, we reviewed Red Dawn, Janelle.
We did it last week, actually.
I think that's one of our best reviews we ever did.
I was just thinking, maybe we should do something that's patriotic next week. We'll figure it out. We always figure it out.
So you said my unit is reasonably sized. So is that you're saying you wouldn't want it unreasonably sized?
Well, it all depends. I mean, of course, my reasonably sized is not other people's reasonably sized. And I have been called a size queen.
Look, LK wants us to do Lady Snowblood.
Okay.
I love that film. That's another one I see.
I Spy Guy. Compare and contrast Yojimbo and Fistful of Dollars. That's not a bad one to do.
We'd have to get Fistful of Dollars.
I thought we had Fistful of Dollars.
No, we don't.
You're right, we don't.
We
My mom had it. That's what it was.
And we used to have it. Was it Netflix used to have it?
They used to have it. Videodrome.
But we don't subscribe to their service because they're assholes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a great copy. We have the Blu-ray of that film.
Mm-hmm. We've actually been thinking of pairing that up with something else.
Well, no, you wanted to pair Network with Max Headroom.
Yeah, that's true.
You didn't want it with the terrorist episode.
Mm-hmm.
I had suggested pairing Network with Videodrome, but you felt that it was a little too flimsy.
Not flimsy. I just thought that Videodrome might be a little too esoteric in theme. Zatoshi.
We don't own that.
No, we don't. That's a crime. Yes, I am a size queen.
Yeah, you should see the 44 mag that she...
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I have a Red Hawk.
No, I'm not going to watch the 2012 version.
Of Red Dawn? No. No, we're not doing that. None of that.
I don't want to do Overfiend, guys.
No, we're not doing Overfiend.
Okay, look, how about I put it this way, all right? There are a lot of films we'd like to do. We have a number of films piled up. I'm going to be point blank. At this point, money's a little tight for us just because this is tough times and things happen. And you don't need to hear any more about the trials and tribulations of our lives. But we do have a thing set up on the Subscribe Star that if you really want us to review a specific film, you can give us the money and we'll go buy it and we will review it regardless.
And we'll credit and put the blame all on you.
And we'll put it at the top of the stack. So like for instance, if you really, 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 really wanted us to do fucking Overfiend, if you gave us the money,
we'll go get it
through Subscribe Star. We'll get it and we'll review it, and then we'll be very angry with you.
But we will review it.
But it will go to the top of the stack, so
yes.
It won't be like you'll be waiting months or anything.
No.
In fact, we've had the offer on Subscribe Star for quite a while. That the option that recommend a movie.
Yeah. No, it's been up there for at least 2 months.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's a film that you absolutely think we need to see, I wish we could just go out and buy every film that you guys recommend, because you have recommended a lot of good films, and a lot of them you suggested I own. I mean, again, I love Lady Snowblood, but I won't do any of the Michael Bay films unless you force me by paying for it, and then I'll be very angry with you. But I love the animated film.
Yes.
I really love that film.
Even though Starscream eats it.
Yeah, but he becomes a ghost, and
that's true. He does become a ghost.
And he gets to torment Megatron or Galvatron for all eternity.
Very true.
I mean, what more could he want?
Yeah. Janelle, what about digital gift cards through Amazon? Then you can buy it through Prime. Sure.
Okay.
Cool. The Earth girls are easy because I'm a blonde. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's an enjoyable dumb movie. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's kind of stupid, but it's fun.
Actually, it's just weird seeing, certain actors in it.
It was like an 80s film after the 80s.
Yeah.
And it was still set in the 80s. It was like, were you guys sitting on this film? And you just decided to release it?
Yeah, or that, or it was one of those don't give a shit films. The video market was still kicking. Yeah.
Yeah, Night of the Comet's a fun one. I wish they could have finished it because it's an incomplete film, but that's another cool one from the 80s. Let's see. Okay, guys, I think you're just going to pile on lots of movies and then we'll want to watch them all. So we're going to call it a night. Maybe we'll come on tomorrow and hang with you if you want or not. It's going to get a little weird for the next week or two because Kat's got to go back east.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might get a little... You might not hear from us for a few days, but... Or can we even... Will we be doing a movie this weekend then? Or will you need to rest this coming weekend?
I'm not leaving till
the after?
6th. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we can. It's
Yeah.
the week after that we may not do a movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I get back on the 10th, and the 11th is another Saturday. So yeah. But yeah, a week from today is the 4th. So
you fucking make us watch White Chicks. We're not your friend anymore. That's just mean. That's cruel. I mean, I like you, Wolf 10. Why would you do that to me? That's just mean. That's like walking up and kicking a guy in the nuts. I mean,
sorry, I had that moment in a car with quote White Chicks where they were rocking out to exactly that song, and I had the
know the film White Chicks, right?
Yeah, I know that film White Chicks, and the dudes in the back dressed as White Chicks were looking at each other like, what the hell? What are they doing? What is this song? This is music? That was my reaction.
He wants us to review Batman and Robin.
Dickman and Throbbin'?
I mean, we could. I mean, that one's... the thing is, that's more of a film to watch with you and Savage.
Yeah.
We need to start doing those where we view with the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, everybody queue up your DVDs.
There are films that would be better if we just watch them with the audience, like Transformers the movie. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say unless you want me to talk about Transformers lore.
And this is the point when everyone's childhood died.
Yeah.
If it hadn't already been killed by the never-ending story.
Thanks, Mad Ginger. We own that.
Which is a Breastwick? Yeah, we do.
We own that, actually.
Well, Wynorski is an awesome director.
We like all of the Wynorski's 80s films, like, Chopping Mall and Transylvania Twist and... Secret Empire.
Yeah, Secret Empire.
In fact, all of his B movies from the 80s are just awesome.
Deathstalker 2.
Oh, that's probably among the best. I really like Deathstalker 2. But then in the 90s, he kind of got into doing these shitty softcore parodies like Breastwick.
Mm-hmm.
But while the films themselves are not all that great, watch them with the commentary.
Yes.
They're fucking hilarious. Which was the one that the commentary where it's Wynorski and the bimbo he's got in it?
That's Lust Connection.
Yeah, and it's just the two of them talking is fucking hilarious.
Well, actually, Lust Connection was filmed at the same time they were doing Witches of Breastwick. So, I mean, like, they were filming both films simultaneously. So they were talking about both films in the commentary for Lust Connection. And, yeah, it's hilarious.
And the amusing thing about it is Wynorski's got a great sense of humor. Through the whole thing, he's just hilarious commenting on this film that he knows is complete schlock.
Mm-hmm.
And then Glory Ann was the woman who starred in it.
Yeah.
And I'll be up front, she was a very sweet girl, very good-natured, one of those people that really was the right person for the job. There are a few people I would say were really, their calling is to flash their tits, but Glory Ann's calling in life was to flash her tits.
Mm-hmm.
So everything she said was just honest and from the heart. And she really thought this was a serious film.
Yeah.
And hearing the two of them comment on it, and hearing the comments she made, and the whole thing about how she was convinced the set was haunted.
Yes. She was absolutely convinced it was haunted. Okay, real quick, Panda Power. I love The Never-Ending Story. It's one of my top 10 favorite films. It is my #1 all-time favorite book. But you got to admit, when Artax dies, it fucking rips your heart out. I think that's most kids' first experience with death. So, that's what my comment was about. Was that if your childhood hadn't been totally ruined by a never-ending story, it definitely was with Transformers. Janelle, what about Night of the Demons?
Yes, we were almost going to purchase it, but unfortunately,
money got tight.
No, it's not just that money got tight, because money did get tight, but apparently that film, it's only available because it's got a cult following, and it only got a cult following because of internet reviewers.
Mm-hmm.
So was it Shout Factory that put it out?
Yeah, it was Shout Factory.
So the only way you can get it is it's like $35, and it's like, I like this movie, but I don't like it $35 worth.
And if I remember correctly, the extras really weren't
worth it.
$35 worth. It's not like that metal tin of Bride of Reanimator that you got from me.
Yeah.
That
I'll pay $35 for a collector edition at Conan, sure, but Night of the Demon? That's the only way you can get it. There is no cheap DVD copy. There's only the collector edition. Otherwise, we do it. Because, that's a great film. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And it breaks all the horror conventions of the time. It doesn't follow any of the rules.
No, it doesn't.
And it has a great line. Eat a bowl of fuck.
Yes, eat a bowl of fuck.
Wow, they're just rapid firing suggestions. Okay, should we let's give it a night.
Well, Wolf 10's heading over to the professor's stream anyway.
Yeah, go over and give Professor an upvote. Tell him hi. I haven't been on this show in forever. I haven't talked to him forever.
No, it's been a really long time.
Yeah, tell him to have us on his show again. All right, guys. Good hanging out with you. Follow me on Parlay. Please, if you haven't already, go over to Go over to Amazon.com and pick up Scars, and it's only 99 cents or free if you're a Kindle Prime member, and leave a good review. And anything else?
Definitely follow us on Parlay. I am Night Editor on Parlay, and Yishi is Ishiro on Parlay. So definitely follow us there. And as always, it's wonderful to see you guys, and until next time.
Yes.